back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. If you're watching out on our YouTube and out on our Baltimore Positive video platform, you'll see that I'm wearing my Fadley shirt. We can't wait to get back down there for more conversations when things get a little bit easier. We're going to get back from the road. The Crab Cake Tour that we're doing beginning next month, all inspired by our partnership and our conversations at Fadley's as well as State Fair, our friends over at Costas. These crab meat prices through the roof. Going to calm some things down. We're going to learn some things. We're going to be speaking to some local politicians next month, having some county executives on, and the mayor, and of course, our favorite county executive, former Baltimore County Executive Don Moeller, my high school guidance counselor, joins us now for the weekly look. And I don't necessarily want to go baseball with you, even though I put baseball behind me on the thing here, because I know you went to Bowie last week, and the Orioles I don't feel like kicking the Orioles about the no-hitter or any of this other stuff or the sticky stuff on Max Scherzer or, whatever's out there. But I know you had a great experience on Father's Day, baseball season. You went to the Bay Sox game last week. Baseball is percolating in your blood right now.
Oh, well, it is, and it's interesting. We won't spend a lot of time on the rules. We'll get to it a little bit later in the show. You know where I want to start? Because if you and again, there's always breaking news, right? As we come on today, we've got the New York mayoral race. We'll talk about that. We've got big news regarding Rural Farms Arena. But I want to start with a post that you put out on social media that caught my attention.
You're going to hold me responsible for something I said on the internet?
I want to know what prompted the post, and then we'll talk a little bit about what you're about to experience. You asked
before you
people,
go Dr. Melfi on me?
No. You just said, hey, look, I don't watch a lot of movies. I don't watch a lot of TV. People know that I make fun of your not watching movies. But you said, I'm hearing all kinds of things about this Ted Lasso. What I want to know is, and we can talk about Ted Lasso because I looked at the comments and everyone agreed with me that it's a very, very special show. What brought it to your attention? I'm just curious. What made you ask about Ted Lasso?
In any way, just maybe I do a lot of radio and people that listen or see me, but if you're engaged with me in social media, Don, do you know how many black people, white people, old people, young people, right people, left people, Dundalk people, in-state? I mean, I interact with like the widest. This week alone, I've had rock stars and politicians on, and the actor. I mean, I interact with all these different kind of people. I know what TV is. I know what Netflix is. I know what Orange is the New Black is because my wife watches it when she's on the treadmill and I hear these women cuss at each other and yelling at each other. And I'm like, what the hell is that you're watching? So my wife watches women's programming all day. She watches NBC and Savannah Guthrie and Today's Show and Hoda this and Kathy Lee that. So I know what movies are out. I sort of know that woman's an actress, that guy's an actor.
But I don't know what movies they're in. You don't ask about. You don't. I'm just curious. It's not a criticism. I was curious.
I know what's up. I don't ever care to know or watch it until. And Max Weiss was on with me. I will listen to Max when Max gives me a recommendation. Probably the only person in the world that I take movie recommendations from. But if 20 people say it's a great movie, and there are 20 people I respect on Facebook, on Twitter, smart people, politicians, actors, pundits, journalists, rock stars, like when I start getting it to me in a lot of different ways, so I take attention. That's how I watched The Sopranos 20 years ago. It's how I watched Sex and the City. And those are probably the last two series. I watched Vinyl, but I haven't watched a television series.
See, there's one I hate. I absolutely hated. That's funny you mentioned that, right? Vinyl is one that I quit after like two. I hated it. I hated everything about Vinyl.
It sucked me in.
I found it disgusting. And, it's interesting. That's what art is all about. I didn't find one character.
Next thing you're gonna know, you can tell me you didn't like Boogie Nights or like.
I hated it. I hated Boogie Nights.
See, you just don't like the subject matter.
I don't like ugly. I'm not a big fan of ugly and the underbelly. And that is absolutely true. And it's funny that
See, I don't
connects
like violence. So like
that.
if people are dying and violently kill, like Sopranos, people would say you watch that was to the edge for me. I don't need faces of death in my face all day. I don't like murders and shoot 'em up. I despise, and I may have brought this up last week. I walked through the city last Saturday with my wife. We walked 7 miles, walked over to Chaucer and back. And it wasn't on in the Chaucer, but it was on in other places. Women beating the hell out of each other in a cage. Like in restaurants where they're getting 20
Yeah,
bucks
yeah.
for apps.
No, yeah, no, I'm not.
You
I'm
know,
not.
like I don't like violence either. So I mean, I
Yeah.
understand where
No,
you draw
no.
your line, you
But
know?
I think it's interesting, and we won't spend a lot of time on Ted Lasso. But I think I love it when we go off on some of these tangents because I think there is a connection between the Ted Lasso response that you got on your social media post and people's desire. And I don't mean this in a Pollyannish, I wish we could all just go back to some sitcom world, but I do think that people yearn, and I don't want to get too deep on a on a comedic series. I think we tend to go over the top sometimes trying to attach historical significance. But I think the angst that people were feeling the past few years with the ugly that reared its head and continues to rear its head in our country contributed in part to the success of Ted Lasso. Because if you can make yourself sit down and you love soccer, so I think part of this will appeal to you
Well, that's why it's
because,
just come to me. So many people love it.
right.
That's why.
Well,
So
it's,
you're asking the genesis. Why did I ask about it? Because I'm not a guy who, like I'm like the guy that goes to church twice a year. You know, I watch something once in a while if it catches my eye and we have it on. But like wasting long stretches of
well,
time in front of TV is almost like a fat person eating a dessert and putting it in front of them,
well,
having the first two bites and just saying,
yeah,
I shouldn't have
yeah.
this.
No,
I
well,
feel that way when something comes on TV. I say to my wife, I'm not getting sucked into this. I'll
but
get into
that's see,
Jeopardy for 18 minutes because I learned some stuff and it's fun for me.
but that's
But
different, Nestor. That's where you and
that's
I,
there's no
this
commitment
is,
with Jeopardy.
yeah, this is the Dr. Melfi part in a sense. See, I think that, and I think I'm pretty discerning in terms of what I watch and what I don't watch. For example, I'll use Vinyl as an example again. I usually will give something 2 episodes. Say I at least if it's been recommended, I would at least get to know the
How
characters
long
a
do you
little
give a
bit.
movie? 20 minutes?
Uh, um, 30 or 40. But
Will you
I love
walk out of a movie? Have you walked out of movies you spent 15 bucks on?
once or twice. And it's funny. I walked out of a film that's critically acclaimed, and Max Weiss will beat me up probably and say, "What is wrong with you?" And I can't explain why I didn't like it. It's years and years ago. It's a Robert Altman film called Nashville, and it was a single camera focus kind of film, and I just did not like it at all, and it made no sense to me. And I thought, I'm not doing this. But in general, see, I don't think, like for example, I just watched. It was highly recommended. I watched a limited series on HBO called Hacks, which I think you would like very much because it's about a stand-up comedian, and it stars Gene Smart, and I thought it was brilliant. So watching 8 episodes of a series on HBO that I think is brilliantly written and acted, I don't think is any way a waste of time more than it is picking
Well,
up
you're more
a good
entertained by it for
novel.
8 hours.
In
I'm
other
trying to
words,
build a business. I just have a
I
different priority.
no,
It's
no,
like
but
saying
see,
to somebody with
that's my
kids, why
point. When
don't you
you
go to
say
a
you're more,
concert? They got kids. They don't go out to bars on, like everybody's got a different
no,
thing.
no, no, no.
I
My
don't
point
derive
is,
enough pleasure out of it. Out of
no,
sitting
no, but
still
it's
with my
not.
wife, not saying a word, I piss her off because I'm always a
But
pause guy because I want to talk about it when it's on. So like if I'm not
yeah,
gonna like react
I'm
to it,
with Jen. I couldn't handle that. I couldn't handle that either.
yeah, well,
I
it's
would
just
say,
not my
no,
thing.
dude. But no,
Sitting
but
still and staring at an effing screen for 2 hours and
yeah.
walking out and getting a
So
meal from my wife,
you
I would
can't sit
rather
down.
like you go watch the movie and I'll go get some
Yeah.
work done and I'll meet you
So
after the movie.
so you can't listen. It's not right or
Unless
wrong.
it's a really good movie.
The bottom line is you can't sit down and enjoy a good book either. then. I mean, that's just you're just not wired that way to unwind
No, I
and
enjoy all
sit.
sorts of books. It's just they're about making my life better.
Yeah, but they're not.
So I did this thing
It's not.
recently. Are you
It's not
familiar with
fiction.
these?
No, no. Listen, listen. Stop, stop, stop. It's not. You can't sit down and enjoy a good Robert Ludlum, or whoever you can't sit down and enjoy a nice piece of fiction as sort of an
I
escape.
haven't read a book of fiction in
Yeah,
30 years because I
that's what I
just
mean.
don't read fiction.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. It's just
I
not.
admitted that to Will Leach, who just wrote this fiction book
Yeah,
that's doing really well, and I
people
don't think I could write fiction, quite frankly.
people are wired. People are wired differently and relax in different
Yeah,
ways.
I got so much like builder innovator in me. I need to be creating shit, not like watching. That's just the way I'm wired.
I
Like I don't.
understand. I would
And
suggest
there's
I would suggest that balance would be healthy, and
balance
that
is up. Sit around and watch baseball games and
uh,
hockey games and basketball games and
yeah,
tennis matches and golf matches.
I
I
agree.
spent 25 hours this month watching Jim Palmer and Scott Garceau not even talk to each other sitting in the same
Oh,
booth.
well,
I
Palmer. Hey, we're gonna get off this in a second. We got a lot to talk about. Limited time. I have never, and I know I know Palmer at 77 is not everybody's cup of tea
Palmer
anymore.
77?
I think he's 77. I'm pretty sure he's 77. Look
77?
that up
Really?
while we're doing this
Okay, go
because
ahead.
I think he's 77. But his recent frustration, and it's interesting, Nestor. This is all I am going to say about I love the Orioles, I'm
He's
pretty
75,
confident.
but okay, go ahead.
75, okay, that he's moving in, that they're moving in the right direction. But his frustration that is boiling over, and I'm going to connect this to Brandon Hyde in a second and get your reaction. If the next time he sees one of our outfielders heave the ball over the cutoff man, or our guys be unable to execute a rundown that your dad would have gone nuts back in Colgate Little League, had your Little League team not, I think his head, we may actually have a moment like in the network where his head explodes. And here's the conclusion that I've drawn, right or wrong. And I like Brandon Hyde, and people are going to react negatively probably to what I'm about to say. I have concluded, as much as I like Brandon Hyde, and I think he did a great job emotionally weathering what's really, really difficult the past few years. I don't think he can be the guy moving forward. And here's why I've come to that conclusion. And again, I preface it by saying I really seem to like him as a person. Seems like a good guy. I don't care how bad your talent level is. I am pretty confident, and I coached JV baseball at Lansdowne High School for a lot of years ago, coached rec ball for a lot of years. I'm pretty confident that, like your dad, I could take a mixed bag of players on my Lansdowne team or on my Catonsville rec teams and teach them how to hit the cutoff man and teach what infielder to cover what base and how to show in a rundown that you hold the ball by your right ear. And if you're receiving the ball, you hold your glove visibly to the outside of the runner. I'm confident that with a little bit of practice, they could execute that.
It's almost like you
And
saw the Tom Amansky videos back in
this,
the 80s.
well, I mean, I lived that stuff. I had great coaches myself. This team, there's only two assumptions you can draw, right? They either can't do it or are disinterested in it, or they haven't been taught it. Neither one are good. And I think that's what, I mean, the other night when Palmer said to Garceau, the bottom line is they just have to play better. I mean, he had it with watching and it has nothing to do with the talent level. So my thought is, if Brandon Hyde can't get them to buy in to at least playing the game the right way, he's not the right guy. But that's enough where we're in. Nestor, when we came on today, we talked a little bit about it with our friend Martin Knott. Breaking news that I thought was exciting. Boy, it's a Baltimore positive story, I think. $150 million to renovate Royal Farms Arena. Give us your initial reaction, because I read it and I thought, That's Baltimore positive, baby. Thank you, Kevin Durant. Let's get this done. What was your reaction? Assuming it comes through and assuming it's
Well, I just
real.
wonder what they're doing. Who are they? What they're doing? What's their big? I mean, those would be the questions I would have. I mean, I don't. The look, the excitement level about something really happening. All right, I'm very Missourian, not in the Josh Hawley kind of way, more in a Claire McCaskill kind of way. But I'm from Missouri when it comes to all that. I'm show me
Sure.
something more than a headline. That being said,
Show
and
me
let's
real
say,
dollars. Sure.
well, no, not even that. Not even. I'm way beyond the dollars. Show me how you're going to spend the dollars. That's like the money. Okay, great. Everybody's going to throw money at it. We're going to put a number on it. What's the result going to be? What are we
Sure.
trying to do here? If I'm the mayor of the city, I'm saying, all right, that's great. You got a name. You're an NBA player. You can bring Michael Jordan, Shaq. You can bring anybody you want in here, right? Any rich person. Was Kevin Plank, Steve Bisciotti. It doesn't matter who it is. What's the plan? What's it going to look like? Why are we doing it? What happens with the investment? What happens on the back end? Are restaurants coming? Are we going to have transportation to get people there? What are the events that are there?
Well,
Are they
I can
concerts?
tell you.
Are they ball games? Whatever they are, it's going to be different than it was 10 years ago because we're not getting an NHL team. We're not getting an NBA. So whatever they're doing, I just want to know what's that plan?
Sure.
And this is something that being old that I would say, and I wouldn't have been able to say this. I mean, it's my 30th year on radio. So if any of these things happen, because they've happened, Don. I mean, Ed Hale was going to do this and Timonium and this and that, and Ted Leone's this and I've seen the plans, and Cordish was going to do. Yeah, I gotten all that right. And we still wonder what's going to happen with the Inner Harbor at some point. We have all this real estate.
What's next? I was going to talk about that.
But how does it affect all of that? Then I don't want to hear about money or your celebrity or any of that. I want to hear what's the plan 10 and 15 years from now? What's it really going to look like? Because I've just been lied to the whole time. I was told what this ballpark was going to do for the city, and it was until.
And it did. Yeah, I don't want to go down with your thing. I'm tired of that.
Man. I sat here and watched business after business die.
I'm
you
tired.
got your head in the sand.
I'm tired of that.
This guy has wrecked the place. Then you haven't seen what's happened at Phillips.
I think
what's
people
happened at Morton's or what's happened at Roost Chris. The reality. I live here. I see what's done to the reality. Why your son can't sell my condo.
I think people are tired of that narrative.
No, but it's a fact. If it's done right. I don't care if it's Kevin Durant or Peter Angelos or Larry Lakini. Give me any name you want. A lot of things have to go right.
This is one of those
successful project.
Yeah. This is one of those.
I'm not a Pollyanna. It's just great they're throwing money and celebrity at it.
You got to start. That's not that. It's you either.
That's not where I am. I don't get excited by things like that.
No, you either. I understand that. And that's a real difference in the personalities. That you're either half full or half empty.
I can be optimistic about it once I understand what it is.
Well, but you start from a negative perspective. You start with. No. You start with all the things
that can go wrong. This is very difficult to do. Okay. I start from this is very, very difficult to do. You like Detroit, you like Nashville, you like turnaround stories. This is not easy. And it's not as easy as saying, oh, look at him. He's famous. He's a ball player. He's got money. And we're just going to put it over there. Because there's too many instances of money being put in places without. And look, the big story here, Don, and you don't want to talk about it, certainly, is what the Angelos boys are asking for in regard to keeping the Orioles here for the next 30 years. Because what the Orioles are and need to be, and what the Ravens are and need to be, and what the casino is and needs to be, and that's all going to affect what the arena will ever be, right? And what the hippodrome needs to be, right? So to me, it is all interconnected. So, I mean, you asked my honest opinion.
No, I understand.
My opinion is, I think it's awesome, but what is it? Tell me more about it.
Well, of course. But you start with, if you ask, we talk, and we're going to be with the mayor soon. If I'm confident, I don't want to speak for Brandon, but, if I were county executive and this kind of investment were coming to the county, I'd be delighted on several fronts. I'd be delighted on the fact that it means thousands and thousands of jobs. I was encouraged that they were talking about redevelopment in the area. You mentioned Harbor Place. I think that if this kind of investment is real, and if this project is real, and we'll find out. I mean, again, there's no reason for me to be negative about it. It's much more, makes much more
No, I'm a
sense for me to
journalist.
say,
It's not even
no,
about
no,
being
I
negative. It's
understand,
about coming with a pen and a paper and asking people like
but
you
there,
tough questions that
that will
stood
happen.
on the government side to say it's great. It's just great. It's not.
Oh, it is
I'm
great.
long from thinking it's great. I
Step
think it's
one. No,
yeah. I think it's
that's a
cool.
shame. That's a shame, because you need to be able to celebrate the initial victories and the
What's the
investment.
victory?
The Nestor, the initial victory is that there is an agreement between the Baltimore Development Corporation and this company owned by Kevin Durant, and evidently a legitimate development company that has had success elsewhere, to put $150 million
This is great. It's like a press conference.
in
Now,
our city.
I'm
Well,
asking you.
what
You're
did I
putting
just say
you
is
you
not true, Nestor?
but
No, baloney. What did I just say that's not true?
I need the outcome. I am
Nestor,
searching for the
Nestor,
outcome,
that's
not today's
ridiculous.
news.
That's at the back end. You can't get to the outcome without someone stepping up with real dollars to say we have an
And I
agreement
can't wait
to
to sit and talk
invest.
to them
Now
about
you
it and
can
ask
say
them
I'm not
about
going to
it.
believe any of it
I'm not
until
going
I
to
see it.
say just because you have money and you're famous and you came in that this is the greatest thing that's ever happened for
Nestor,
Baltimore. Because the
you
greatest thing that's ever happened for Baltimore might be something at the harbor. It
of
might be
course,
something at the baseball.
if you want to take a negative approach to it, that's the way you approach it.
That's silly to
Or
say I'm being negative.
or
That's
you
being
well, you are
inquisitive. There's
being
nothing
negative. Of
negative.
course you're being negative. I mean, there's no other way to look at it. Of course you're being negative.
That's I
A
mean,
company stepped forward to invest $150 million
and what do they want for
in
it?
Baltimore
What,
City.
what do they
What do you
want?
mean, what do they want for it?
What happens? What
What
does
do you,
that mean?
Nestor? You're going to get to that. There are going to be stage. This is not.
Well,
This
I'm
is
sure
not
the
playing.
government's going to be
This is
involved in
not
this.
playing Legos. They will now come forward with design concepts. They'll get input. It is a process. But if we can't, as governmental leaders and people who believe in Baltimore City, celebrate the potential of this project, then we're done. We're done. If we have been so abused that we can't
Oh, I don't think.
celebrate
I just think
this
asking
kind of
questions is not.
investment. Look, you're not asking
I don't
questions.
get
You're
excited. I
immediately
haven't even read
jumping
the
to that
story,
it might
Don. I mean,
fail. You're not asking questions,
this came out this morning. It's on the news.
but you're not
This
able to
is
celebrate it.
right. There's nothing to celebrate yet.
Of
Nothing's
course,
happened.
that's absurd. That is absurd
No.
that there's nothing to celebrate. A
I
company committing $150 million. Nestor, that's not even rational to
when
say
it
there's nothing to
starts when it starts
celebrate.
to actually happen
Well,
beyond
of
press
course,
conferences.
of course, when you see a shovel in the ground, of course, the
Don,
initial phase.
you know what the problem is? Let me give you the specific issue here, okay? So and I'm just going off the top of my head. All right,
Please
this
don't
is
take
literally
it back to the Angelos family.
no. Well, I was at that press conference
Yeah,
too, but
please
that's
don't
not where I
take
was
it
going.
back to that.
Well, repeatedly I was at the same press conference full of the same liars for 30 years, but the arena it's been different. I have been to I'm going to say a dozen, but that might be a jerk because there might only been 9, but there might be 14 press conferences at involving the former Baltimore Civic Center, the Royal Farms Arena, which, by the way, it is Chicken Palooza month, July. I love the Royal Farms Arena the way it is, which is probably part of my own old guy issue, but it is Chicken Palooza month. I've been over there for press conference. I can just try to think of the names. Okay, you ready? Blades, Clippers 2 or 3 times, Skipjacks 2 or 3 times, Bandits. That's just hockey. Basketball, Bay Runners. What was the thing that that Ripken had? That it was the CBA. There was another league that Herb Brown coached in USIB something something something. So those are the basketball. Then there's the lacrosse. Like how many people have tried to do something there that on the day of the press conference if I'm Mr. This is the greatest thing ever. I thought the IRL was the greatest thing. I spent 2 years pimping a race that destroyed the city, wrecked the city. I acted positive until it showed up. So I have been a part of these ruses and never got paid for the work I did. So like I've been a part of all of this, and I've seen the way the press conference goes, and until the point where the shovel gets in the ground,
Well,
to
of
the
course,
point where
Nestor,
the building goes up, to the
the
point where
proof,
the people either show up or don't show up. So
the
I can only be so enthusiastic by something that, quite frankly, are bureaucrats holding a press conference.
no,
I've just
well,
been to too much of that.
yeah,
I've just been
the
too much.
proof, and I know we have to run because we've got lots of guests today. We'll come back next week and talk about the New York mayoral race. We'll talk about voting rights. I think that'll
Can
be
you
the
tell me how much
focus.
fun you had at the Bay Sox game real quick? Because I'm going to the Bay Sox game this weekend. I want to know. I love
Well, I just
baseball.
want to, yes, I will. But before I don't want to say the proof in this project, obviously, will be in the taste of the pudding. But if we now are to the point where we can't celebrate the announcement that a company is going to put $150 million in our city, we're in a bad place. The Bay Sox, it's terrific fun being down there. It's a great little stadium. You
Four
know, it
bagger.
takes
Did you have a beer?
it takes from where you live, it's 35 or 40 minutes. They need to do a better job with the concessions, particularly on the nights that Rodriguez pitches. They get really backed up because they get big crowds and the volunteer. It's not a knock on the volunteer group. It's just too many people. But my goodness, Nestor, for $18, you can sit 5 or 6 rows off the field. You see some, it's fun to see Rushman, who you hope becomes good. It's fun to see Rodriguez. So
I
again,
swear you and Luke had the same seat. You both had the same picture
yeah.
right behind
Well, you
Rutschman.
go on the website; it's pretty easy to pick them out, and that's where you want to sit when Rodriguez is pitching. And again, prospects are
Do you go to
prospects.
minor league games much? I mean, you've been up to Aberdeen lately.
Linda has always enjoyed minor league baseball. It's fun. It's inexpensive, as I said. I mean, the people saw on social media where I sat with friends and family at night. That seat was $18. So you zip down there. Parking is free. It's just a great. You'll
Parking's
have
free,
fun.
really? All right, good.
You'll have fun, and next week, as I said, we've got lots to talk about. Things are happening as we speak. Another lively edition of the Recon, and we encourage people tune in, get the podcast wherever you get your podcast, because we've got good guests rocking it all this week.
Next week we'll argue about what celebrate means. I don't know. Like I think it's good news. But
If it's not, if it's not, we're in trouble. We should just close up shop. If somebody hiring thousands of workers and putting $150 million in our city is in the same way that redoing,
I want it to work.
Redoing Cross
I just
Keys
want it
is
to
good.
work.
Redoing.
I want to be convinced as I sit here and say good things about it that I really believe it's going to work. That's the difference with me. I'm not here to just say it's a great idea because it's an idea. I just want it to work. So
if it doesn't work, then we'll say that was a shame. But right now, on day one, $150 million, jobs, a renewed downtown Baltimore. That's nothing but Baltimore positive.
All right, I got questions. That's where we are. That's what makes it fun around here. Don Moeller, former Baltimore County executive, my high school guidance counselor, providing guidance. We've talked about mold and air with Martin Knott. Going to be talking to Dan Rodricks this week, and Noel Kassler, if you're familiar with his comedy act. He'll be down at Rams Head, where I had a great Father's Day with Rick Nielsen and his family on stage with the Cheap Trick Band. So we're back to music. We're back to fun. Steve Whiteman stopped by. They're playing Merriweather next week, so we're getting back onto the lawn with a beer. Heritage Fair in Dundalk next week. We've talked to our friends at Wise Markets about that. They're the big sponsor of all things Heritage Fair. Don, when's the last time you were at Heritage Fair in Dundalk?
Oh boy.
All right, we've got to change it. Well, you're Catonsville. I can't get you.
No. But I've been. Oh, listen, I've been to that fair many times. Both when I worked at Dundalk High with Jim Smith, with Kevin Kamenetz. I had good friends that lived over there right on the parade route. So I used to, before coming back to Catonsville, start at Dundalk. There's nothing. I mean, this area has some of the greatest parades. I mean, you go around, but just in our area, Dundalk are viewed as Catonsville, Towson. I mean, that's about as Americana. That's right out of Born on the 4th of July.
I'm even going to eat a hot dog over at State Fair to honor you. How about that?
We know how to celebrate.
Chicken and waffles and hot dogs.
We know how to celebrate the 4th around here in
Fourth of
Baltimore.
July. Don has his chair out on Frederick Road already. We're getting ready for next week in the 4th. That is the Recon. I'm Nestor. He's Don. We are WNST AM 1570 Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking or even griping about Baltimore Positive.